Hey, Joyous Monday, or whatever day it is, wherever you are in the world right now. Welcome along to hashtag No Filters with me, Cheryl Norris Hopkins. I'm often joined by my lovely friend Sabina, but again, she's off enjoying herself. So you've got me again sharing some insights, some tips, and some tools to help make life more joyous and create a lot more freedom in your world. So here we are. I decided to actually entitle today's chat, sharing, whatever you want to call it, creating your future and not waiting for the world to change. Now, it depends on when you're watching this, but even that is almost irrelevant because how many of us are actually conditioned, how much of our world is set up for us to wait for something or someone? So I can notice, right, there's been lots of focus on a certain political outcome. In a country, and everybody's attention and energy was on that and focused on that. Now they're waiting for whether or not or when that individual is going to be sworn into office. Next, we'll be waiting for when the next medical solution is going to come out for us to all come out of so-called lockdown. We're always waiting for something else and something more, or waiting to hear an announcement from our companies where they're going to be making people redundant, or we're waiting to hear something about whether we can start a business, or we're waiting to hear about what the local council will say. There's always something. And if you notice, it's almost as if we put our energy and our power outside on ourselves, looking for somebody else's decision to chart our lives. So I want to start inviting us to look at how we can start taking more and more, I'm going to say control, just for ease of use of language. Let's just start creating more of what you want, more of what might be fun for you, despite what's going on in the world right now, or in your company, or in your family, or in your neighborhood. Because whilst we wait for everybody else to make a decision for us, we are literally that puppet on a string. And if you've ever watched any one of these shows before, or looked at the hashtags, one of the things I say is become the puppet master, right? Handle your own strings. By the way, if you've not joined before, anything I say, don't take it as gospel. It's not the truth. What I'm sharing is some of my insights, some of what I'm aware of, some of the skills and tools I have that I've developed in life and I use with people that I coach and many other things to basically enable you to find out what's true for you. So I'm just sharing different perspectives, which might just turn on a light bulb. It might just give you that little extra sense of inner confidence to go for something. So if something doesn't resonate, throw it away. I have no desire for you to be a mini version of me or to look to me for some kind of magical wisdom. I would love it if you found your own source of freedom and truth and that this contributed to that. So just bear that in mind, okay? So yeah, finding more of what's true for you and actually creating your world. So let me give an example and then that may kind of contribute. So during this lockdown in the UK, Sabina and I started sharing these chats. And this is how this hashtag no filters came into being. We weren't doing it for money. We weren't doing it to get a massive following. We weren't doing it thinking that it was going to grow into something and become anything significant. But what I've noticed that by doing something that was fun and something that seemed natural to us, now, 5 months later, or what it is since we started it, and I've started sharing it in my local neighborhood WhatsApp group. I've started sharing it on my WhatsApp, as a broadcast to friends and family, little videos or the videos that I do on a Monday, which are an hour long. I've started to notice that they're actually starting to contribute to other people in ways I hadn't considered. They even started to possibly create business, but I didn't do it from that perspective. I did it from the perspective it was fun and it was easy and it was joyous. So I'd like to invite you to start thinking about creating your life and your future from choosing things that are just that light you up, that you do and you don't have to put any real thought into. It's the way we used to have old school hobbies. People did things that they could spend hours at and the time would fly by, but I weren't doing it for a particular outcome other than for the fun of doing it. So I'd like to invite you to that as a first possibility, to start to choose things from a space of doing it for the fun of doing it. Now, maybe you don't even know what's fun for you anymore. Maybe you've got so used to constantly being what I call fight flight, which is reacting to the world around you, because our society is very much set up on that pattern of of almost sensationalizing shock, trauma, drama, headlines, fighting against a potential threat. People, when you ask people how they are, what do they tell you? Do they say, "Oh my God, I've had such a great time hanging out with my partner," or I went for a lovely walk and that was really refreshing, or I'm really loving working on this project? Do they tell you those things, or do they generally say, "Oh, this isn't working, this is wrong, this person's getting on my nerves, this is a concern," the so-called what's causing them angst in their lives? And that's like the default norm. People will share about what's so-called wrong in their lives, and therefore, as if it's a way of affirming and justifying what they're not choosing or what's not showing up. And that might seem really controversial, and that might even poke you. And here's another kind of little tip here. If something pokes you and makes you feel as if you're like want to push it away or get angry towards it, be honest with yourself. I don't care if you're dishonest with anybody else or you disagree with me. Go inside yourself and ask yourself, wait a minute, what is this triggering within me? Is it touching a nerve, as in there's truth in that I do that actually by complaining about things? And I'm using language which is incredibly restrictive, because each piece of language is generally set up to be something that almost exacerbates our anxiety. But I have to use some words. So just maybe play with it for now, right? How many of us complain about something because actually it gives us a bit of a comfort zone, a little safety net? That means we don't necessarily step out beyond what would get us extra attention or get us seen, or would have people in our friends and family, our local community speaking out against us or questioning us. So it keeps us keeps us in the space of not taking too much of a risk. It's almost we get really used to being on a treadmill of complaints and saying that we can't choose something because somebody else says we can't, or somebody else says we have to wait. Like as a kid, we never did that. As a kid, we constantly went towards what we wanted to experience, what we were curious about. We explored different possibilities. And we created our lives all the time. And then over that period of our childhood, we start to get taught and shown and asked to do things based on what somebody else wants us to do, or wait for their decision before we can do it. And then we internalize that process. So right now, just take a moment to think about something you're waiting on. Are you waiting on the lockdown to lift? Are you waiting on a vaccine? Are you waiting on being paid out by the government? Are you waiting on, like where I live, we've still got things to be finished on the development. Are you waiting for that to happen before you can enjoy it? Are you making what are you making significant? Are you waiting for I don't know, pretty warmer when it's only just turned into autumn in the northern hemisphere? What are you using to stop you creating what would create more ease and fun and joy in your life? And I use those words, ease, fun, and joy, because for me, that's part of what makes it worth being on the planet for. They may not have any relevance to you. You may not care about any of those things. So find your version. So, for example, I was speaking to somebody recently, and there's worry in their world about something that's happening, and there's a good chance I'll be working with them, like, teaching them some tools and helping them get rid of that anxiety that's churning in the world, making it easier for them to interact with other people around them, for them to actually start creating something they'd like to do. And what's really cool is that people say now it's kind of hard to start business now, or to take on clients now, or find new clients. And I'm like, whose belief is that? Who says I have to do it the conventional way? What if I can just do things that are fun for me, and in doing that and in contributing, like for example, as I said, doing these videos, or I've been doing little short ones, sort of a couple of minutes long. Just when I get an idea, an insight, I've just been shooting it on my phone and then uploading it to YouTube or Facebook, depending on where you are right now. And that's connected me to people because they've seen them and gone, oh my God, that's amazing, or that's really helped me. And it's started a dialogue. And then over a period of time of chatting with them, or then getting to know me, they've been like, actually, can you help me with this? Or what's your opinion on this? And I said, well, these are the things I would look at. But hey, you could go do it yourself. You could go find information in different ways, find what works for you. And they're like, no, I'd actually like to work with you. I'd like you to kind of coach me or facilitate me. So it's almost like we kind of focus on the end goal, thinking we want to get something and that there's a certain path to get it. However, often when we're really dogmatic about this is the way we need to make something happen, it's normally actually hit with lots of roadblocks. It's frustrating. We feel out of control, even more anxious. But when we actually just go and do things that are fun for us, and then you actually contribute to others, more often than not, they actually open up new doorways and pathways and things you never even considered. So what are you going to choose during your version of where you are locked down in the world right now? I mean, you might not be. But your version of lockdown could be you're working from home. It could be that you're doing reduced hours. It could be that you're supporting your kids more with schooling. Instead of waiting for those things to change, just take a moment to find one little thing in your world that you could just start doing. Because when you choose something new, or choose to pick something up that you used to do, that's actually creating your world, right? Your world is created by your moment by moment choices. And if you don't make a new choice, well, nothing's going to change. And if you're going to wait for a political party or a financial reset or vaccination or whatever, well, then you're not actually living your life. You're living a life based on what somebody else is determining, and you're just reacting to it. And that's totally cool. I'm not making it wrong or bad. The same, is that what you want? Is that kind of creating your life? I mean, it is a form of creation for sure. But is it creating the life that you want to live? Is it the life that, if you were going to bring a child into the world, is that what you would give them as an option? Would you say, hey, kid, I want you to come to the world, and you can only basically choose your life and do things when you consider everybody else and wait for them to make a choice? I know I wouldn't, but that's just me. But what about you? And notice. Again, you're not wrong. Nothing's wrong. I get quite dramatic at times. I'm like, because I really, like at my very core, I've always had this thing which is I'm so strongly driven by the concept of freedom. I've always desired for people to have their own freedom. So I even find it frustrating sometimes to actually even share an idea, because that's almost like channeling people down a particular path, and I don't want to do that. But I'm doing my best as a human being, or somebody having a human experience, or whatever you want to call this. So notice maybe just one thing you use as an excuse. And don't take the word excuse personally. I'm not judging you. I'm just using it as a word to put a wrap around an idea. One thing where you go, no, I can't do that because I'm waiting for this. And ask yourself, what if I could do it? What one step could I take now towards it? Like, yes, maybe you can't travel to the other side of the world to go and connect with somebody or um, go and see clients so-called face-to-face. But even then, there's ways around things. Like, do you remember being a kid and being what I call really creative? I was going to say sneaky, but creative and persistent. As in, you're curious to find ways of doing things. Like, if you ever made games out in the garden, you built things out in the garden, you would just grab anything to make your own little shelter or to make make it a completely random game. And you would ask and 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 ask if you could have something. At least I did. And I'd ask from different angles. In fact, that's not strictly true. I was actually a pretty quiet kid because I was self-contained in terms of trying to feel safe and independent. So that's not true. I didn't ask and ask, but I was very determined, so I would always find a way. So I didn't verbally ask people so much, but internally I was always asking, how can I do this? What else is there? I always looking for ways. It might not be a verbal thing. My verbal things come more as an adult. Um, yeah. So now I'm more childlike, but in an adult body, and I do the, can I have that? Can I have that? Will you do that? Will you do that? And it's almost the reverse. Most kids probably do that. They ask what they want. They ask different people. And when they can become adults, or as they grow older, they stop asking. They start assuming things aren't possible. They start looking, because we're conditioned to do it, to look outside ourselves, to listen to teachers, to listen to adults, to listen to those bigger than us when we're little, waiting for their permission. And most of us never take it back. How many of us wait for our partners um, to decide something before we can decide about it? I've had people say to me recently, so I'm just thinking, I've got a comment here, let me have a look. Comments. I've got my phone on sideways. So Simon, thank you. He's saying you might be able to see this. I don't know if I can put it on the screen. Can I? You might be able to see it. Let me see if I've got my other device, if it's showing. This is the thing about doing it on a phone. Sometimes it's not always easy to see things. All right, let me just read the comment because it may be easier for me to read the comment than it is to try and put it up on the screen. But basically, Simon's saying, obviously, hi, liking my outlook on life. Can I help him sort out his perspective? He's doing this quality challenge of cycling 2,000 kilometers for charity. Could I message him? Just give insight, as he wants to raise money for Crick Sargent, who supports children with cancer. Something worthwhile. I can do this whilst I'm in. I can do it whilst I'm in lockdown. This is not able to work, and the cycling is fun. Right. Okay. So awesome, Simon. Thank you for asking. Right. Basically saying, and hopefully be able to see this comment on Facebook, and maybe not, maybe on YouTube, depends where you are. But basically, can we support him? And it's just giving insight. So Simon, if your link's there, or if you can add your link to the comments, if you're on Facebook, if that's where you're doing it from, which I think you are, then please do include that, right? This is the thing about asking, because somebody might go, oh my God, I'd so like to support somebody who's doing that, who's helping supporting children. I've had people message me and say, oh, I'm doing this charity thing, can you support? And I'm like, I tap into me. For a start, I ask myself, does it feel like fun to support these people, as in, or this charity? And that's all I ask. Or sometimes I don't even ask it as a verb. I just go, Do I feel more alive when I read about it? Is the person who's doing it, are they alive and excited? And therefore I want to contribute to them. And so I contribute. So guys, if this speaks to you, if what Simon's doing in terms of 2,000 kilometers riding for supporting children with cancer, if that speaks to you, go to his Just Giving link. Donate a quid, donate 10 quid. This is the thing about asking. You'll be amazed how many people will help. It's not specifically about charity, but this general concept of asking. I did a shoot. So for those of you who don't know, I do also something called commercial acting and modeling. So I appear in corporate films, so training films for companies. Yeah, it could be photographic material for them for their advertising. It can be online advertising, what you see on Facebook, YouTube, Insta, all that type of stuff, as well as some TV adverts. And I got asked if I could do some presenting for a piece of training for a company, basically for internal training for companies, so for their staff, something they would put on their internal apps. And I was offered an amount of money to do this. I was offered £300 to shoot. And I was like, it doesn't work for me. £500. It's fun. So I just went back and they just messaged me. I just messaged back and just went, oh yeah, I'll do it for 500 quid. And it was a done deal. And that's just like an everyday example. Somebody offered me something as if I'm getting excited. I speak quickly, I get excited. It's as if they had the power, right? They were asking me if I'd be interested in a gig. So they've already got the gig, the job. They're just looking for a presenter, a performer, an actor to do it. So I wasn't the only one, possibly, they were considering. Although I do believe we're all brilliantly unique, and I need to slow down because, like, I'm slowing my words. This is not what I did for the presentation piece I did on Friday. I was very enunciated and incredibly clear. So I could do my RP, and then you'll be able to hear me very, very clearly. But they approached me, and therefore it would be very easy for me to think that they've got the power, and that if they offer me £300, that's what I should take. Be very, very grateful for that. And I was grateful to be offered a role and offered the money. It just didn't feel like fun for me to do for £300. And that's about being honest and knowing what future I wanted to create, which is at a certain amount that's fun for me to work for, or was in terms of that project, and that I wanted to go and travel for. And so I just asked. In fact, I just put my rate, and they agreed, and it was done. And I've actually even been paid for the job already. So I did the job on Friday, invoiced today, I've been paid today. Because I also asked for a certain amount of invoice terms in terms of how many days, but they had longer to pay. So I'm sharing sort of personal examples because I find that it's really easy to talk about high level concepts. But actually, if we share what's going on in our own worlds, then you can find the equivalent in your world. So hence, I'm sharing my stuff. So that's an example of asking. So let's see if there's any other comments here. Yeah, so, somehow I've put Simon's comment on the screen. That's mad, isn't it? Wow. What skill is that? Click it. I just learned something. There's a real life example of learning things on the fly. How much do we get used to comfort zone of like set patterns, as in, I don't know how to do it, so I won't take a step towards it because it's something new and I feel uncomfortable. I was just curious, going, what is, trying to scroll on it, and I happened to click it and it appeared on the screen like that. That is so cool. Oh my gosh. Love that. Wow. Because as kids, that's what we did. We explored, we were curious, and we created our world accordingly. Learning to walk, learning to talk, learning to count, learning to engage with other people. We were constantly taking new action, new steps. No one could walk for us. No one could speak for us. No one could people could walk alongside us to support us. I just had a vision of somebody trying to play a sport, thinking they could do it for you. Somebody can coach us. Somebody can to give us some guidelines, or they can make some suggestions. But actually, you still have to do it yourself, right? So, what one thing, again, I'm going to keep it really simple. What one thing can you, what's one thing you've been saying, oh, I want to do this, or I'll do this when? Maybe you've got a list of it. I'll do this when this changes. I'll do this when that occurs. I can't do this now because. And then take one of those things and go, okay, what one thing, what tiny thing can I do towards that? Or if you like bigger steps, what big thing? It doesn't matter. And not being invested in the outcome. And it doesn't have to be a whole master plan of like all the steps I need to take. That's a very linear, fixed idea. And as I say, often things come left field and right field when we're not invested in them. They come, all sorts of angles. And I speak as somebody who was very, very focused, very, very, very meticulous about planning and making things happen. That was my world for the first 20 odd years, mid 20s, late 20s, whatever. So I know that world. And I could make things happen, and I used to make things happen. It was incredibly stressful. There was no joy in it, or very little. Although, in a weird way, I enjoyed it, but I guess I did enjoy it. But compared to how I am now, oh my God, like worlds apart. The sense of play and lightness and fun I have now, that didn't exist then. The joy I had then was more from the sense of, oh, I feel like I'm in control, so yeah, I feel like the captain of my ship, but actually there was no real fulfillment in that, I guess, because I was always battling, trying to make things happen or trying to avoid things from happening. Which again is, I think, is how, excuse me, we sold the idea that to success for us or anything worth doing requires a fight. I was the queen of fight, not so much with other people, but within myself and making things happen. It's an interesting path to follow. And again, if it works for you, awesome. Knock your socks off. What if there's another way? What if it might be more fun to not have to fight and struggle and battle with things? Have you considered it? Have you tried it? Why do we do things that we think are enjoyable, as in socialize with people, go to places, buy things, have experiences? I dare say we do them because we think they're going to give us some sense of enjoyment, relaxation, upliftment. Therefore, why not apply that to our whole lives? Why not? So choose one little thing that will create a bit more of that in your world. What if you do that? So I think we've got more of us. Oh, so Simon said he sent a QR code. Let me tap it on the screen. Sent a QR code to help your supporters find the page more easily. So anyway, you guys can read that. I mean, it's going to be on Facebook, so you can click on that and see where it takes you. Yep, we can try that. So for those of you who want to, on WhatsApp, okay. So for those of you who want to support Simon and his in his cycling, support kids with cancer, check out the comment. Thanks, Simon. Appreciate that, man. This is like, again, this reminds me of being a kid because as a child, well, at least I did as a child, I'd go to the field, to the park, and just go and play with other kids. I didn't know them. I'd just go up to them, start playing, or speak to them. And guess what? That's how we made friends. So as an adult, why can't we do the same? What stops us from reaching out and sharing an idea, making a request, seeing who might be interested? And we often do that within our little clique. Maybe it's we do it because we have to speak to a colleague or maybe another team, another department in work. Or we might do it to our next door neighbour. We might speak to them. But how often do you just walk down the street, smile, say good morning to somebody, or to every person you pass, which creates an inner sense of connection, an inner sense of joy. Because right now, most of the world is telling us to avoid people, to be careful. People are a danger to us, we're a danger to each other. And if that's what you think and believe, that's totally cool. Is that the future you want to continue to create and seed for you, for the people you care about, for the communities you live in? If not, what about starting to do something that's in line with what you would like to create? And it's not about getting everybody on board to think the same and be the same and do the same as you. You will naturally gravitate, and other people will naturally gravitate to you that have a similar ethos, similar interests. And what if it's more about that? What if we start, and I'm going to go out on a limb here, I think we're going to go more away from mass globalization, which is where we've been heading. And I know there are those that believe that we're going to go further into globalization, financially, politically. So it's definitely a possibility. And what if that's not what you want to create? You start to create more of what I call local community, particularly during lockdown, right? I mean, it's the perfect time to start to develop your community and community connections. You know, instead of waiting to be able to get out and travel again or spend time with lots of people, what about starting to see what you can build in your local community? Because that is your daily life right now. And we're all interconnected anyway, so even if you do something in your local community, it does connect with their community and online or whatever that is. Just trying to give you ideas, guys. I mean, I have there's so much in my brain, and particularly obviously when I facilitate, coach, teach, whatever, um, that tends to be very focused on what somebody comes to me with. Right? You know, typically women or corporate women who are like, well, want to improve their relationships with colleagues or have more ease with being seen and stepping out, having true confidence in who they are and what they're about, and not trying to be a cookie cutter of their department or their industry or their gender. There's normally a lot of stress and overwork and overwhelm and demands on their time and their life, and they're like, this doesn't work for me anymore. I want to have a sense of ease. In fact, they don't even necessarily know the words they're looking for, but they know it's not working for them anymore. So what's not working for you anymore? How about that? Let's go from that angle. And then when you know what's not working for you, and it could be a whole heap of stuff that you've decided. And there's a whole another level from which we could look at that as well. But I'm just trying to give you an overview and overarching ideas because I'm not working with you personally. I don't know your particular situation. And when I generally work with somebody, or 6 months to a year, yeah, so there's a whole evolution there that happens. But just now, just look at something that's not working for you, like this just doesn't work. Let's go for something like your partner or intimate, a friend, doesn't matter, but somebody maybe you live with or a family member that triggers you. There's one that's always fun to look at. And normally with those, what we have is we have our idea of what's right, and they have their idea of what's right, and they're trying to control each other to feel at ease within ourselves. That's what it's normally about. We try and control other people, and I mentioned this to a client yesterday, and we're going to be working on this. We use blame, we use shame, and we use guilt. 3 beautiful emotions, manipulators. We blame others for what's going on in our world or not, what we can and can't do. We use guilt or made to feel guilty for our choices, as in, if I do this for me, then that's wrong, that's guilty. I should be considering everybody else and what they want. And shame is used generally on us, as in, you should be ashamed and you are deeply wrong for choosing something that works for you. So blame, shame, or blame, guilt, and shame. Three key manipulators that are used in relationship all the time. It's like virtually every relationship is set up on that. It's really very fascinating. And so we pull at each other all the time to try and get somebody to do something that we feel will make us feel more secure, better about ourselves. If that's working for you, awesome. If it's tiring, exhausting, frustrating, what if you flip it 180? What if, instead of trying to get somebody else to be something for you, which is that whole waiting for the world to make a decision again, versus you choosing and creating your world, what if you start thinking, okay, I'm going to start being more of my own source of happiness rather than expecting that person to give it to me or for them to do X. So again, I'll give you a personal example. My partner hadn't done some of the things he does in the house. And I've shared this before on chat. But I noticed it particularly this morning, or yesterday, he was rushing out somewhere. And I could easily have gone, oh, he hasn't done it. And go into internally. I'm not a nagger. I realize what's my stuff and what get triggered. There's moments where I say things to him, and I'm like, whoa, that's my shit. I'm sorry, I pull it back. And sometimes I have puked, as in, put a load of stuff from him, I'll say something, and then I'll realize, well, you know what, it's my bad. I need to process that. But I didn't go into like, oh, he hasn't done it. I went, oh, right now I'd like this to be tidier. Okay, just do it. Now, there's a whole heap of stuff there, right? I have a different way of looking at relationship. I don't see that the other person's there to satisfy me. Although I love to have fun, and I love that they contribute, that their sense of fun and joy in their lives is a contribution to mine. And I definitely ask them for some things and have preferences, but I don't make them my source of my world, which is where a lot of that guilt, manipulation stuff comes in. And actually, it's just, if I just saw him as a person, it's like, oh, okay, he chose what worked for him. Right now, I would like this to be tidied up. I'm going to choose this for me. It's completely made up. It's completely arbitrary. I'm just deciding it needs to be tidied up now. That's just a perspective. It's not even true, but I'm just choosing to decide that. So fine. So why not be neutral about it and have ease with it? And then it created space for me to do what I wanted to do. And that's a little form. It's a really mundane example of creating your future versus getting angry, getting frustrated, getting paid with them, having a moan, yelling. That's creating your future too, right? Because fundamentally, our whole life's about relationships. Relationship with ourselves, as in how we feel about ourselves and what we think we're capable of. A relationship with the world around us through people, through activities, through belief systems, societal structures. It's our internal view of the world that we go out with, and then we interact with it. So the only thing that's consistent is you, stroke me. So if I'm not creating the future I desire, it's back to me again. That doesn't mean there aren't other considerations. So, for example, yes, we have societal structures that support us moving through the world. I get that. And there are things we have to do, steps we need to take. So, for example, again, another silly example, but it's what pops to mind, so I'm going to go with it. So at the moment, there's this thing about people wearing face masks or face coverings. Face coverings. I'm not going to get into the mass debate of that. Everybody's got their opinion. But it does say face coverings. So I realized that wasn't going to be fun for me necessarily. I mean, I went through a whole heap. I experimented and I did have fun with it. But I was like, do I really want to do that? I was like, I want to find an alternative. So I looked at different options, and eventually I decided and came across a face visor, which is like a plastic sheet on basically, a pair of glasses with a plastic sheet. So basically, and people have headband ones, but I have glasses ones. It's a face covering. It completely covers my face. In fact, more than just the nose and the mouth. But I can see everything. I can breathe easily. It doesn't mess up my hair when I'm on a shoot. And I go about the world wearing that. And I'm like, oh my God, this still works. But I hardly see anybody else wearing them. I'm like, that's interesting, isn't it? How we've interpreted what it means to have a face covering. Bear in mind, we can wear scarves, we can have, I don't know, what are they called, like snoods, things that we can pull up over our face, whatever. But most people have gone for material covering, and I've gone for this visor thing. I'm like, this is a different way of seeing things. So what little things? It's like a really small thing, a really small choice I made. But it was a choice that created a sense of ease for me, which fills my day when I go about, when I'm in a shop or whatever it is, which actually is creating my future experience. Because if I'm feeling more relaxed when I'm shopping, then of course I have more access to clarity in my thoughts, more ease in my body, and what I'm going to do next. So again, I'm going to ask you this question again. What one thing can you start to do, choose, change, that will start to create a future more in the direction of what you would like versus waiting on somebody else to come back to you with a decision for the world to announce something? It would be really easy, for example, for me to not be doing these little hashtag no filters on a Monday because Sabina and I started them and we were going to always do them, not always, but we said, let's share our chats. And for a little while, there were times when Sabina wasn't available, and we waited to when she was. So it might have been 2 or 3 weeks between a show. And then I was like, this doesn't work. There's so much to be shared, to explore. So many things I'm aware of. I'd like to start sharing that. So I'm just going to do them on my own. Had I been waiting, it might have been that the little sort of insights that people are getting from these, or Simon posting his comment, none of that would exist. Because Sabina's not around doing the show today with me. So Simon's request and the possibility to support the charity that he's looking to support with the ride, the cycling, wouldn't be an option. It wouldn't exist on this platform and therefore being shared out. So that's how, literally, there's little choices we make. I mean, it goes all the way back. When do we make a choice? We make a choice in our mother's womb, almost, and the choices they make. It goes back generations. Like every person's choice influences everybody else's. There is no separation. It's a myth, I'm going to dare to say. But yes, but it's the choices you make now creating your future. So yeah, what little choice can you make now? Just asking the same question, because sometimes it's really cool just to stick with something simple. And you don't need to tell anybody. You don't need to be accountable to anybody. Unless it's fun for you. But often when we're accountable to somebody, we're looking for them to Again, it's almost giving our power away. And I'm not trying to blanket say that's what it is all the time. I'm just saying maybe notice why we share things or want somebody to have our back with that regard. Which is, which is totally cool. It's totally cool. Just I've got something bouncing here saying, accountability buddies sometimes. They're amazing that they kick us out the butt and don't let us get away with crap. But also we can kind of rely on them being there to do that. So I'm just inviting you to consider just doing it for yourself on the quiet. No one needs to know. Taking a little action that in your inside world, it's creating something different for you. And not sharing it, not speaking about it to other people, sometimes can be really cool because we're looking for their confirmation, their affirmation of us. Choose it for you. What if you just choose it for you? And they notice what they notice. Guys, I hope there's something useful there. I think I'm going to kind of wrap it up for today. Sometimes I feel like, did that even make sense? But that's irrelevant. That's the joy of just sharing and trusting, because I'm doing it for the fun of doing it, that you're going to get something from it, even if it's one thing. And just to let you know, obviously these little things on Monday night are up to an hour long, but I've started shooting, as I said at the beginning, little videos, a couple of minutes long, just on whatever popped. So on the YouTube channel that we've entitled #NoFilters, hasn't got a formal proper the channel name is #NoFilters, but it's, you know, it's still those long characters that YouTube uses because we've only sort of started recently. But I'll post a link to the YouTube channel in the Facebook comments. But I've created several playlists. So there's a playlist of Cheryl and Sabina's cheeky chats, because some of our kind of shares have been very politically incorrect and very taboo, and there's been a lot of laughter and fun there, as well as sort of insights. So there's a playlist for that. There's a playlist called Preparing for the Future, which has been more about these ones I've been doing on my own over this last month, where there's been tools, tips, ideas, maybe more of a focused theme. But I jump around as well because, hey, that's a joy of just following the energy. And then there's a little playlist called Quickies, and they're these little 2-3 minute things. I've done 2 or 3 of them, and they might be valuable because I realise people have got, you know, other things going on. So to sit down and listen to something for an hour or watch it in one whole chunk doesn't always happen. Although if we really want to, we make the time, or it doesn't even matter if we can start it and then we can jump in and watch 20 minutes later. Who cares about doing it all in one go? Do what works for you. But if you fancy little 2-3 minute insights, they might be good. And I think I might just start doing more of those quickies and just uploading them. So please feel free to subscribe to the YouTube channel, or join Joyful Bodies Official on Facebook, or True Drew Uxbridge on Facebook, depending on where you find us. Those pages, like those pages, and then you'll always get an update as to probably when I'm going live for the Mondays, and or any videos Sabina or I post. So guys, I really appreciate you taking the time to come and play and join us. Any replays, please feel free to share this, right? Share the links to the pages, to the YouTube, friends, send it out on a broadcast on your WhatsApp. That's one of the greatest ways to actually share and connect with people, because I'm not saying WhatsApp like the solution, but I'm just thinking when we like something, share it on our Facebook page, it's often a very small circle of people that see it. And also it depends on if they're looking on their feed and when they look on their feed. So I think WhatsApp or those types of platforms might be quite cool, because if you're in somebody's contacts, or, you know, their phone contacts, then you know it's going to go to them. And that might be a really cool way of sharing our stuff with people. Just a thought. Guys, any comments, feel free to post them. I will keep an eye on this after I end the live, and I will come back and answer them. So appreciate your time, and I really hope there's something there that adds to helping you create your future and not waiting for the world to change. Big love.